Hello my fellow hunters and welcome to the Monster Race PC version Switch X progression guide. And first of all, I just want to give you some hints. The first thing is quest wise. I remember when I played the game the first time, I just recommend clearing all village quests before. So don't swapping between gathering hub and village quest. And the reason why I'm saying this is for the village quests, the monsters HP got a nerf, and for the gathering hub quests, which are low rank wise the same, the monster had more HP and it's more focused for multiplayer. So I recommend also, even if you have some friends or to play with, just complete first all village quests. And I also recommend don't only do the key quests, just do like I've done every single quest. Also the, for example here, slay 8 Isuchi, all the other additional monster quests, because for the weapons and armor pots you later have to craft. Sometimes you need some random little monster stuff like random Isuchi stuff, and so you didn't have to do this quest again. So I recommend, yes, doing all quests, also the other ones like maybe, yes, slay some altar roads also. That's also pretty good for the death stench headpiece, which is also pretty good for Switch X players, giving you protective polish skill, or also, yes, killing some jaggies or other stuff. Yes, that can be very useful in the future, so you don't have any missing monster materials, which is sometimes annoying. Yes, that was the first thing I'm gonna say. Just do all village quests before going to the gathering hub. So the next stuff I want to talk about is that yes, Switch X has the most complicated meta in the entire Monster Hunter history. Maybe about 8 or 9 different meta Switch X's. Also the morph is a little bit other than previously. Just an example, you know, maybe Barioth has a fire weakness, but yes, for the Switch X meta it's more useful to use the Switch X I have currently equipped. It is the Narva Switch X, and this Switch X has a special skill called, let's give me a second, Anti-Aerial Species, which buffs your damage output 10% to, yes, flying wyverns. And Barioth is a flying wyvern and also has thunder weakness. I can show it you here, let's give me a second. So you can see here he also has a little bit thunder weakness. So yes, fire weakness is the highest one, but Switch X wise it's better to use against the Narva Switch X. That only was just one example. And 2 other examples I just want to recommend you. In the complete low rank, don't use power files. Power files are very hard to get emmed, and when your Switch X is emmed, it's the most comfortable playstyle. Yes, you can ZSD monsters, and you also have earplugs 5 during a ZSD, so it's extremely comfortable playstyle. And the only bad thing is if you go to the smithy at the beginning of the all the starter weapons, like the Camura Iron Axe has power file, the Proto Iron Axe has a paralysis file. Also want to mention, don't use any paralysis Switch X's in the game. It will you take ages to get this Switch X emmed. Also Para Switch Axis has a very horrible sharpness and an extremely low amount of paralysis paralysis status attack. Yes, it's very hard to get monster stunned. Maybe for the 2 or 3 times it's very easily because of the low threshold, but yes, for a longer hunt it's very hard to get the monsters. And it's a very uncomfortable play style. It's very hard to get emmed. And yes, also the Bone Axe is a power file, so I didn't really like that. All the starter axes you got have power files, and they are incredibly hard to get amped, and especially if you never played Switch X, or maybe if you come from the 5th gen. Power file is yes, very hard to get amped, and I didn't really recommend the low rank using in power file. The next thing I just want to mention, this is only the first half of the video. I show you maybe the second part of this video on another day. This video is only focused for the weapons, and later I'm gonna show you the armor skills because I didn't want to make this video too long. Also an important skill, if you didn't watch my previous videos, I don't want to show you how to craft the Nargacuga X, so maybe I got a huge shitstorm. Nargacuga X is for the other weapons like Insect Clave and most other weapons. You only have one meta weapon, like for the hammer, great sword or Insect Clave. And yes, in this game Switch X has a highly elemental damage output, elemental meta, and to be honest, there is no raw X. So in this game, no raw. They completely removed the pure raw Switch X's. No single pure raw Switch X exists, and just want to also mention that you're doing a lot of fixed damage. Just give me a second. You can see here, for example, if you do a ZSD, you're doing more than 50%, so in this case 51.74% with fixed damage. So that's damage which can't crit. Or if you're doing the RM loop combo, I didn't want to talk about in this video, only about the progression, you're also dealing about 27% fixed damage. And the Nargacuga Switch X has 40% affinity, which is all for the other weapons OP. But yes, you're doing file bursts, soaring with one blade, you can see here all the gray numbers. Yes, file bursts, the ZSD finisher, there are a lot of moves that can't crit. And so in general, if you try to gonna build sets or what else, you don't have to pay too much attention to the crit skills. But you can use weakness exploit. Okay, let's gonna start. Sorry for the long intro. Let's start with the village quests. So, starting with the village level 1 quests, you only have to do some gathering quests or slay some chakras, so nothing special, so you have to do that quest with your previous axe that you already had become for free in the game. So nothing special to craft, just some collect stuff, and so it's very easy. In maybe less than an hour you're at low rank level 2, and there is the key for our entire low rank story. It's the Arzura Switch X we can craft. So the quest is called Grizzly Gluton, and I maybe recommend doing this quest twice, because maybe later you also have to upgrade this Switch X for level 2, and yes, you will use the Arzurus X, I think maybe 70 or 80% of the low rank quests. Why not even higher? There are also some other quests, slay some Beggy, Great Jaggy or Lagombi, but you didn't really need that stuff from the other monsters. The most important is the stuff for get Arzuros X. I'm gonna show you how to craft it. So Arzuros 3 is right here. So I recommend crafting it out of the Kamura tree, so you only need one iron ore, extremely easy to get. And then you can craft to get, you need less monster materials out of the Kamura tree, the Arzuros X1. Yes, this Switch X is pretty much OP. You can see it has 110 raw. So you can see the Kamura tree, it has 50 raw, so it has more than doubled the attack, and it's still only rarity 1. So it is the strongest rarity 1 weapon in the entire game. Also it has a poison fire, extremely easy to get amped, you're doing a ton of damage, and yes, Arzuros weapons are by far the best low ranks weapon you can use in the entire game. Because it has the double amount of damage than all other rarity 1 weapons. yes, so you can craft that weapon, and with that weapon you can slay the following monsters. You're now in level 3 of low rank quests, and there are 2 important quests. So I recommend first doing the quest Fighting Dirty. So you have to kill Barov. You need a specific monster part to unlock that weapon, and it's the Barov Scalp. You get it from 80% from a carve. So I recommend killing that monster. And now you can easily upgrade your Arzurus Axe. Sorry. So you can upgrade to level 2. The Switch Axe now has green sharpness, 120 raw, which is an incredible amount of damage. You can see Kezu Switch Axe, for example, only has 80 raw. And yes, extremely high raw, by far the best rarity 2 weapon you can use, and I also highly recommend using the Arzurus Axe level 2 until, yes, the end of your entire low rank hunts, until the low rank 6 quest, because it's by far the best weapon you can use. You can maybe also compare it with other weapons, but yes, I think highly recommend using this weapon. It's by far better than any other weapons. You have also like Rathalos Switch Axe, but you can only kill Rathalos at a lost level, and also it has a power fire, so I don't really recommend using this Switch Axe. Yes, now we have the Arzurus Axe too, and you can use it for the most quests. The next quest we're gonna do is just a preparation quest called Spongy Oasis. So this is also a key quest. You have to kill a Royal Luthrot. And don't worry, we don't using the Luthrot Switch Axe, but I'm gonna show you that this is a preparation Switch Axe. So go for the upgrade weapon, go to the Royal Luthrot tree. Let's give me a second. Search for water element. Okay, where is the Royal Luthrot tree? Is it? Oh, it's pretty much at the bottom, and you can see here you can get the Luthrot Axe. And you also need for the later upgrade the Tetranodon hide. So, but Tetranodon is also a key quest, so you can upgrade that weapon to the Luthrot Axe level 2. And this axe is just a preparation. I don't know why you can craft the Cinogorous Switch Axe out of the Luthrot Axe. For me personally, it doesn't make any sense why the Cinogorous Switch Axe doesn't have its own route to craft it out, but yes. Ask the developers, not me. So, now, yes, you have the Luthrot and the Arzurus Axe, and now you're going to the 4-star quest, 4-star level. I recommend doing the Raging Whiteout quest. Is also a key quest. The thing is, the Amber Hoarfrost, so the Barrier of Switch Axe, is no meta weapon, but I recommend it for players that are maybe not Switch Axe mains, or don't have so much Switch Axe users, maybe also getting in touch new in this game. And for these players I recommend crafting with a Barrier of Switch Axe. At the end of the day, Kushala Switch Axe, it is by far the most OP Switch Axe in the entire game, but the Barrier of Switch Axe is very easy to get amped, and I highly recommend it, yes, for beginners maybe, checking out Switch Axe for the first time in this game. It's very recommend to get the Switch Axe. And yes, we have killed the Barrier, and you can now go to the tree, and you can find it here. It has its own tree. Ah, okay, not. So, yes, that's why I said you have to kill the Arzurus twice to craft it again out of the Arzurus tree. So the thing is, you have to craft another Arzurus weapon. I don't recommend craft it out of the previous Arzurus Switch Axe you already have, because it's still much more OP. And I'll also show you why. Arzurus Axe level 2 has 120 raw, and the Barrier Axe only 80. So you can see it is a huge downgrade if you craft it out of your Arzurus. Switch Axe that you already have. So I recommend crafting a second Arzuros Switch Axe and then getting the Ember Slash. Because later it's gonna be a pretty damn good weapon. And maybe you can use the Barrier of Switch Axe against Almudron. It's weak against the Ember Hoarfrost, Ice Element. So, I think now we are done with the 4-star quest and now we can go into the 5-star quest. And for this, I recommend killing the Zinogre. It's also a key quest. Electrifying Epiphany. And now you can craft out of the Lothrod Switch Axe. You already have, yes, gotten. So we're gonna search against for the water element. Sorry. Okay, thunder is also okay. So where's the Zinogre Axe? It's here. So out of your Lothrod Axe level 2, you can craft the Absorber's Downpour, and you can use that if you want as your main Switch Axe now, because it has Power Fire, which is pretty strong, but it depends on your playstyle. And yes, for more comfortable playstyle, I recommend using the Arzuros Axe, which is a lot easier to get amped, but if you want, you can maybe check it out. There are some Thunder Weakness monsters we can maybe fight in the future, like the Tigrex. You can use it against the Tigrex. We are killing in the level 6 quests now. So we go to level 6, so that is also the end of your high rank stuff. Okay, so maybe I recommend first killing the Almutron. And I recommend killing the Almutron with the Barrier of Switch Axe. If you have already crafted the Barrier of Switch Axe, you can use it against Elytrion. It is weak against ice, so you can use it Switch Axe. And if you have killed the Almudron, you can forge a Meta Switch Axe. Yes, you can see it is colored in blue, so all weapons that here are colored are Meta Switch Axes. And you can get the Almudron X1, you can see it here, so it has its own weaponry, so you only need some random stuff, nothing special, cut the tail off and yes, you're done. You later need that Torrent Sack, but you can only get it from a high rank Tetranodon. So this is the best possible axe you can get in low rank. It has 130 attack, yes, water element, by far the best water switch axe in the entire game, easily to get amped with. So now we have also a water switch axe. Then we go to the quest board again, and then I recommend killing the Tigrex. Tigrex is here, Thundering Voice, and I recommend if you've crafted a Zinogre Switch Axe, you can use it against Tigrex, because Tigrex has Thunder Weakness. Don't forget to use as ramp up skill Anti-Aquatic Species for the Zinogre Switch Axe. Zinogre Switch Axe is a meta weapon against monsters like Mizutsune, some kind of monsters that living in the water. Yes, the best Thunder Switch Axe at all for general use is the Narva Switch Axe. And yes, only use that Switch Axe mainly for the monsters living in the water, Leviathans, and that's sad stuff. Yes, but you can also use it against the Tigrex. Don't know where the Tigrex Switch Axe is, so I'm gonna filter it by element, file type. It is an exhaust file. And it is the KO Meta Switch Axe. So, okay, crafting the Tigrex Switch Axe, you only need some random Tigrex stuff. So you previously have to craft the Daedalus Axe and Power Knasher, but for that Switch Axe you only need some random stuff, don't have to kill any specific monster. And if you have the Rex Knasher, I recommend using the Switch Axe as your main Switch Axe. Yes, you don't need any special stuff, just random materials Yes, and now if you have the T-Rex Switch X, I recommend using this as your main weapon, because it does a ton of KO damage. All Switch X has the same KO damage, but yes, has incredible high amount of raw, 160. That negative affinity is not a problem, so you do a lot of fixed damage with your fire bursts and other stuff. So yes, and you can do a lot of KO. I personally only recommend using KO Switch Axes in the solo hunts, because in the multiplayer hunts it's a little bit tricky to get monsters knocked out with only one KO solo weapon. Yes, we've got now the best possible Switch Axe until we can craft now, and with that T-Rex Switch Axe we can kill our last monster. We also have Almudron Switch Axe, T-Rex Switch Axe. Now we can kill the Gossarak. And for the Gossarak, I know Exhaust is immune against Gossarak or otherwise, but you can still KO Gossarak with the T-Rex Switch Axe. And yes, he has a fire weakness. We don't have any fire Switch Axes, but I recommend using the T-Rex Switch Axe against him. Now we go to the smithy, we kill the Gossarak, and now we can craft, I think, yes, extremely favorite Switch Axe. It is also a KO Switch Axe, but it's more versatile than the T-Rex Switch Axe. And it is the So I heard, sorry, file type, I heard that KO Switch Axe are very hyped for people that never played Switch Axe before, so I recommend just using some exhaust fails. Yes, the Conquerors. You have to craft it out of your ore tree, so nothing special is needed. You already can craft it very easily. So you can see you only need some Crasium. If you have problems getting Crasium, you can do the Hub 4 quest, Dango Duty, which is a low rank quest that gives you free Crasium if you're lucky with 8%. So you can get the first level of General Strong Axe. So the positive thing on the Switch Axe is it's very versatile. Maybe you can, it's a good Switch Axe for doing exhaust damage. So monsters not raged all the time. You didn't really have to craft that Switch Axe, and that's the reason why I didn't have colored it. But it's very easily to get. You'd only need that golden muck. Yes. And you get it out of the Almudron Switch Axe. Sorry, I made a mistake. I had to say it in the previous section. But yes, we killed the Gossarak, and so we can now upgrade the Amber Slash. So we're gonna search via element, ice element. Okay, here. You can now craft Amber Slash level 2. So you see, you need block of ice. Just a little hint, block of ice. You can only get that through the shinies. So don't forget, if yes, Gossarak drops some shinies, to collect them, and then you can upgrade to Amber Slash 2. Just pretty strong Switch Axe, pretty bad raw amount. T-Rex is 160, but good affinity and ice element. Okay, now all low rank quests are gone. I've mistaken one thing from the Almudron. If you kill Almudron, you can craft the Almudron X and the General Strong X, which is the KO. So use Psych Bind Boost on the Switch Axe. So now low rank stuff is done. Now we come to the more complicated things. Yes, this section I have to travel a lot, so I'm gonna all cut out the scenes when I go to the smithy. So let's continue with the high rank. High rank starts in the Gathering Hub with 4-star. Now you can do if you want. I did not really recommend doing this, but it's additional quest. You can capture an Arzuros. You don't have to do this, but if you want to have your Switch Axes maxed out, you can kill. Sorry, you can capture. You can capture the Almudron, the Arpex Azuros, but it's very hard. You can see only 7% chance to get the Beast Gem to upgrade your Azurus Switch X, so I did not really recommend doing this, so it only was additional information. So I didn't show you this the max out Switch X because T-Rex is stronger, and that's just for fun. Okay, now to the next quest we're gonna do in the 4-star. It's the Frost Islands area. You have to kill a Pteranodon. And it is this one, the Frost Islands arena. You have to kill Almudron. You need Nova Crystal. I think you should have someone. Go to the Almudron tree, and now you can upgrade to level 2. You can see you'll need a Torrent Sack. You got from the high ranked Pteranodon with the best drop chance, which is 70%. You have to break the monster parts, so you get it easily, and 5% Almudron Blade. I know it's hard to get, but it's really worth it. That weapon has a good amount of slots and an incredible amount of elemental attack, so I highly recommend using this. So now, next level, or 5-star high rank quests. For this I recommend doing the following quest. This one, Minor Problem, is also a key quest, and you can get from this key quest Nova Crystal. You need for the General Strong X2. You didn't have to craft the weapon, it's just for fun. So we killed the Basarios, and now we're gonna search for... I always search for Final Type, it's the fastest way you can do. I think it was at the ore tree, and now you can upgrade your General Strong X1 to General Strong X2. You need for that Nova Crystal and also Basarios Carapace, which is a rare material. So you can craft the General Strong X2, which is additional. You didn't have to craft that Switch X, but I want to show all versatile Switch X that can be used. Okay, this was the only 5-star quest you can get useful materials for Switch X. And now to the 6-star quests. For the 6-star quests are 3 recommended weapons. Sorry, not weapons, but monsters. And yes, the first quest you can do is Sky, Flash, Clouds, Boom. You have to kill a Sinogra. And from that quest you can double upgrade your Sinogra Switch X. So you can see we previously has the Absorber's Downpour, and now we've done the Sinogra quest. And yes, ramp up to anti-aquatic species. You only need some random stuff. So Sinogra Blade is for the most cases very hard to get. I know I have 10, but yes, it's low drop chance. And for the last one you have Sinogra Jasper. You can upgrade that after I've killed Magna Malo. Magna Malo is also a key quest, so yes, and also Sinogra Jasper. But Sinogra Jasper is extremely hard to get. I recommend killing Apex Sinogra, which has highly increased drop chance for Sinogra Jasper. So I recommend only maxing out, not to the last, but for level 2, and you can do that after you've killed Magna Malo and Apex Sinogra. It's a lot easier to get the Jasper, because you can see 3%, and if you're killing an Apex it's 5%, okay? Yes. So we've killed Sinogra and upgraded our weapon. We are at level 6 quests. Then we can do Sharpening Amber Fangs. This is high rank Varioth. And with this quest, you can upgrade to Amber/3. Unfortunately, it is still not the maxed out weapon, but I want to show you how to get his stuff. You need Amber Fang Plus, so please keep in mind you have to break the head of the Varioth to unlock this Switch X. Yes, we previously had the Amber/2. We got from the low rank level 6 quest Abdominal Snow Beast from the Gotharak. And now we can upgrade it to the Amber/3. You have to break the head from... Yes, Varioth and now you can get this weapon. But like I mentioned before, you did not really have to craft that barrier of the Switch X. It's only additional if you later have problems with power files. So now the last important quest for high rank level 6. It is a meta Switch X. It is the Engineer Switch X. This is the best possible fire meta Switch X. We also have the Rathalos Switch X, but you need a lot. You need 4 levels of handicraft for the Rathalos Switch X to read white sharpness. You can't get any levels of attack boost, and yes, also Engineer X has elemental fire. It's more easier to charge than the Rathalos Switch X. Yes, much more enjoyable gameplay, higher damage output. You have bad affinity, but that's not the problem. You're doing a lot of fixed damage, and yes, recommend using this materials for the following Switch X. This weapon also has its own weapon tree, so you don't have to craft it out of previous weapons. You only need some random engineer stuff, nothing special. So you now have a pretty strong Fire Axe with 210 raw. Remember, Tiger Axe only has 160, so it is extremely good Switch Axe. You know, Fire Element is kinda meh. I recommend don't use Brutal Strike because tiny green sharpness. I recommend using Fire Boost. It's a tiny bit better than Affinity Boost. Believe me, elemental attack is more important than crit skills. And now we are finally in the high rank 7, and there is so ton of stuff to craft. It is incredible. I didn't really recommend doing a specific order. I just sorted the monsters by alphabet, so I just gonna show you alphabetically the weapons or what else you can craft. Okay, let's start with the first weapon. It's Gosharak, and from this Gosharak materials you can craft your last levels of Ember Hoarfrost. So I'm starting with the normal monsters, and after we've done with all the normal monsters, we can go into the Elder Dragons, because you need some specific high ranks for Teostra or Valstax or what else. Okay, we already have the Ember Slash level 3 maxed out from the Barrier of level 6 quest, and we can now max it out to the Ember Hoarfrost, which is a pretty cool weapon. I recommend using this weapon with Handicraft and Protective Polish to reach white sharpness if you want to use it. And yes, it's not the strongest Ice Switch Axe, but very enjoyable playstyle. You didn't need any special stuff, very unrare things, extremely easy to craft, and now we have the first completely maxed out weapon, which is unfortunately no meta weapon, but we will continue. So let's continue. There is the Magnamalo Switch Axe I've talked previously. You did need for maxing out the Xenogre Switch Axe. So if you wanna really max out your Xenogre Switch Axe to the sports Cloudburst, you have to kill that Magnamalo. That was a mistake, I not completely said. I only recognized it now. So yes, also the next quest is Almudron, and with that quest you can completely max out your Almudron Switch Axe. We already had an Almudron Axe level 2 we got from the Tetranodon stuff, and now we can finally max it out. This weapon can't reach white sharpness, so you don't have to use any handicraft levels. Huge amount of decorations. Also extremely high amount of element, and you can also use, don't really recommend using elemental exploit. I've put all the recommended ramp up skills here in the table so you can read it. And I recommend using Water Boost. This makes 62 elemental water attack if you're using some water daggers. The next thing is, you can, if you want, if you like the Diablo Switch Axe, you can craft it, but I personally don't really use the Diablo Switch Axe a lot. I know there are some speedrunners using it, but it has a bad sharpness. For the first levels, for the last level you can reach white sharpness, but you need some levels of handicraft. And I personally recommend using the Tigrex Switch Axe over Diablos, because Tigrex Switch Axes had white sharpness natural, and you don't need any levels of handicraft. Yes. Diablo Switch X has a little sharpness problem. It's the second best KO Switch X, but you can craft it if you want, but I did not really recommend it. It's depending on what you prefer, maybe from the design. If you like Diablos more, you can craft it, but I recommend using T-Rex Switch X for natural white sharpness, because sharpness is most important damage multiplier for Switch X. Yes, and now we're coming to the T-Rex quest, calling a resounding roar, and in this case you can upgrade your T-Rex Switch X. You can't really max out it, you can also max out it later when doing Kushlada Aura, so I show you how to get second level. I forgot to mention that the Golden Almudron Orb you need for the last Almudron Switch X is very hard to get, only 3%, so maybe you have to kill about 20 Almudrons. Maybe don't really recommend using the last level, it's very hard to get, maybe if you have some more free time. So, okay, we can now upgrade the T-Rex Switch X, sorted by file type exhaust. Okay, and now we have found the T-Rex, I think it's at the bottom. Yes, here. We previously had a Rex Slasher 1 and we can now upgrade to level 2 because we can now have high rank materials like Scalp, Scale, Claw, so nothing special or unrare thing. For the Scalp you have to break the head, but it's not as tricky to get the T-Rex Maw. T-Rex Maw has incredible low, it's like a orb, like the Golden Almudron Orb, you only get it by 3% or so, or 5%. T-Rex Maw is extremely hard to get, you have to break the head, and it's like a jewel, so extremely hard to get. Yes, Rex Slasher 2, we finally have now. Next quest is Rajang. So there's also a very powerful Rajang Switch X, but Narva's Switch X is a lot stronger, and also Rajang Switch X is bad sharpness, but you can max out your Conqueror's Switch X if you have crafted it. So we previously had a General Strong X, 2 from the Varasarios, and we can finally get the max out version Conquerors. You can see pre-level 1 slots, it's pretty cool if you wanna maybe play with free meal, or you maybe wanna heal your teammates. It's an extremely versatile weapon. Yes, and you need that gold Rajang pelt that you got from the quest. So now the last quest before the Elder Dragon level or what else, higher difficulty stage, is the Serpent Goddess of Thunder. That is the end boss called Narva. And I recommend for these Switch X's, which are very easy to craft, you have to get 2 of them. I call you why. So now I'm gonna explain you why you need 2 Switch X's of them. So you know or remember, Sinogre is Switch X meta, but only for Leviathans or anti-aquatic species like Sonderkampf or Ichizune, whatever you know. And this Switch Axis is has mathematically the highest damage output when you include the amped uptime. If you don't know what amped uptime, I'm maybe gonna link a meta video where amped uptime is gonna explained. This Switch X has an incredible high amount of elemental damage. 35, if you max it out you can maybe get up to 50 or so, or even higher. And then you also have to include the 45 elemental damage multiplier, so incredible high damage output of element. And yes, that's by far the best Thunder Switch X you can use. And you have to get 2 of them because of attack boost 3 or attack boost 2 in this case. This makes the Switch X very versatile and anti-aerial species. So if you're fighting against monsters like T-Rex, which is an flying wyverns in general, yes, or Barioth, for example, this is very recommended. So against Flying Wyvern you use anti-aerial species, even if the weakness of this monster is not Thunder. You can also use the Switch Axe because you get 10% overall damage multiplier, and for all other monsters that are not Flying Wyverns or not anti-aquatic species, you can use attack boost. So you can see Thunder weakness is extremely complicated because you have 3 Switch Axes you can choose if there is a monster weak against Thunder. Yes, that's the first level of, and also I have to say that's by far my favorite Switch Axe of all, but only the maxed out version I can show you later. So the next thing is you can see here a thick line. That means the quest as the story main line is over. There's also an additional story part, but the next quests, or you have to reach a certain high rank. So you can see here you have to be high rank 8. That was very interesting. If the Switch version was out, we was kept at this stage, and then we have to wait until next updates. But I think now it should be included, all the stuff, so you didn't really have to care about that. If you have to increase your 100 rank fast, you can do some rampage quests. You can do, we met several 100 ranks with rampage quests. So, and you have to reach 100 rank 8 to get access to the Eldritch ranks. Yes, and in Rise Switch version, we for the first time we didn't really have access. We have to wait some months to get some updates, but I think you didn't have any problems to get into it. There is a little mistake in the game. Honestly, these quests are under rank 8 quests, and I didn't know whether they are under the 7-star quests, so that maybe is a thing that the developer have forgotten or didn't know about what I've done, why they didn't have a under rank 8-star sub quest order. So the thing I think is there's also Chemi. I really like Chemi, but unfortunately we have a power fire for the Chemi Axe, so it isn't very useful. It looks cool, but in this case I recommend crafting this Exhaust Rampage Switch Axe. And that's also the thing I want to talk about. Rampage Exhaust Switch Axe is better than the T-Rex Switch Axe, but it requires you a lot of time to get the Rampage Switch Axe maxed out. That will gonna take you several hours, so I don't want to explain all the Rampage stuff and want to make this video too long. So Chemi Axe didn't really recommend it. I didn't currently want to show it you, but it has a power fire, and power fire is meh, and there are some much better weapons with power fire. So we have the Steely Storm Slayer Kushlata Aura with high rank 8 recommended, and with this quest you can craft 2 weapons. You can max out 1 weapon and craft another one. And so the first thing I recommend is maxing out Rex Knasher. We also have Rex Slasher level 2, and now we can upgrade it to the last stage. Like I said, the T-Rex More, like you can see here, is very hard to get, 8% drop chance, and you have to break the head. Otherwise it's extremely difficult to get the T-Rex More, and you need some of the Aura Claws. For me it took a lot of time to get a Switch Axe, because T-Rex More, or like the Golden Almudron Orb or objects, that's extremely time intensive and very hard to get. But yes, Rex Knasher is an absolute powerhouse. 220 raw, natural white sharpness, and yes, KO Switch Axe. I highly recommend using the Switch Axe for everyone that didn't really wanna get in touch with the elemental meta. And now to the next Switch Axe we can craft out of the Kushlata Aura. It's the second Switch Axe, so you can see Kushlata Aura is very important. You can get this, is an absolute beast. This is an absolute powerhouse. It's the Aura's Faraza. And if you get crafting a Switch Axe, like I explained, you can see here all the Rampage skills. I didn't really talk about them because I didn't want to make the video too long. This has a special playstyle, the Switch Axe. It says Kushlata Aura, so affinity gradually increases when continuously landing hits on foes. So the thing is, with this Switch Axe, I don't really recommend putting this weapon too much away from you when you didn't really needed it. So for this weapon I recommend using a lot of invisible gambit, or doesn't put always your weapon away, because then the effect leaves. You get for the first 4 hits 25% affinity bonus, and for the 5th hit, not 100% completely sure, but then you get 30% affinity. So this is an absolute powerhouse, but you have to keep in mind that don't every time for every shit and putting away this weapon. Let it out long time as possible. Yes, get a good armor so you don't have to heal all the time. Or maybe using invisible gambit with the switch axe is also very useful. That switch axe has a very special playstyle, but it's an absolute powerhouse. So there's also a Teostra quest. You maybe remember the Teostra switch axe in World which was pretty strong, but now in Rise it's kinda meh, it's not really the best one. The reason is KO switch axe is so much more better. In this case I have a Plor build loaded up in my YouTube videos, you can watch it, but personally the Plor switch axe isn't really strong, it's just a fun to play weapon. Yes, if you enjoy some Plor procs also you can use it, but I didn't really recommend. It's not really a strong weapon you can craft. Also there are some sharpness problems with the Teostra's castle. I think you can't either reach white sharpness, and white sharpness is absolutely recommended if you want to have a good switch axe. But you can upgrade the engine of switch axe, I'm gonna show you, to the max out level. So you can see we can upgrade Flamen by level 2 to last level. You need engine of chem, which is also really hard to get. I didn't know whether I've dropped the drop chunks. Oh, Teostra main is 25%. You have to break Teostra's head to get the Teostra's main. This switch axe is extremely strong. You don't need any handicraft, just protective polish with blue sharpness. This weapon also has some slots, extremely high amount of attack. So on my current Knashing Flamen by build I have 278 raw attack. You have seen maybe in my previous video. So this is an extremely good raw switch axe. No raw switch axe, but it has a high amount of raw. And yes, I recommend don't use Brutal Strike any stuff, use Fire Rose 3, it's mathematically the best one. Don't put too much effort into crit skills, like explained. So the next switch off I'm gonna show you is my absolutely favorite switch axe. I have done with that switch axe several world records, and it's by far, for me personally, the best looking switch axe, most fun to play switch axe. You can get white sharpness, it is absolutely insane. You have to kill for that, getting that access to the switch axe. This quest, the Allmother Narva. And yes, like I explained, I recommend with the switch axe using the Sinister Glove, so you get tiny bit of white sharpness, but I'm gonna go into more into the next video when I show you the recommended armor. But yes, the amount of element is completely insane. The switch skills are extremely dope, and it's so much fun to play with this weapon. It's my most used weapon. It is the Abyssal Storm Axe. You can see you need Orb of Origin, very hard to get. Drop chance is only 5%, so you have to grind a lot to get a switch axe, but it is absolutely worth it. Unfortunately, you need 2 switch axes of them, and yes, that's very time consuming. Also, you have to get an Ibushi hide that you can also get from this quest, because in this quest is also Ibushi, so no problem to get the switch axe. I can also show it you here. You can see I have on the switch axe currently my favorite set, white sharpness and incredible strong switch axe. Just my favorite one. I never want to put this off. It's always just can't get rid of this thing. So for the next quest, this was also the last till update for the Nintendo Switch. You unlock the most possible weapons, switch axes, or max out the most switch axe. It is the Avil Star from Beyond, or also the Crimson Glow. I didn't know what's the correct name. There are a ton of Wild Strucks quests with different spawn locations, so don't be confused with quest titles or locations. That's like with the Basil G's quest. Yes. With this switch axe you also this monster you also unlock a specific armor set, the full Wild Strux armor set, but I did not really enjoy it because it's very hard to slot in it also neglects elemental damage, and you can't really slot in any good shop management skills or attack, power prolonger skills, rapid move skills. Very hard to slot in or work with the set. I didn't really recommend using the full Wild Strux armor set. But that's content of the next video. So I'm gonna now show you the weapons you can upgrade. I also can show you the Ostra's cost. You can see only blue sharpness is really kinda meh. Also no, elemental fire, didn't really know. That's not really... if the Ostra's cost had white sharpness, it's a good switch X, but you can't really read white sharpness, so I did not really recommend using the switch X. Yes, next one, Cammy, you can see it here, has white sharpness, but the raw is by far too low. You need minimum 220 raw, like the T-Grex switch X to get a good damage output. 190 is... Maybe you remember the Kushlada Aura switch X, you can see here, also has 190, but instead of 190 it has also a good element, and it has 30% affinity you can get with the Kushlada Aura soul. So what I want to say, you can upgrade the Kushlada Aura tree. You can see you need some Wild Strux materials, and Aura, also the Aura gem, only 3% drop chunk, so you have to grind a lot of Kushlada Aura. It's absolutely worth it for the best possible switch X. You can also use the Aura Siana as a raw switch X because of its high amount of damage output. One of the strongest switch X. I think it's the Aura Siana is the strongest switch X by far in the game, and you can also use this switch X as raw switch X. Okay, the next switch X and the last switch X I recommend to craft is the Wild Strux switch X, Red Swing switch X with Red Note Donut, and yes, that's by far the best switch X in the entire game. Switch history was very annoying. You have to use Faltrache with power files. But yes, that's by far the best switch X you can get. You drop chunks for Red Dragon Orb is 3%. Extremely annoying. You have to grind a lot of Wild Strux, but very good sharpness management, and I recommend for this weapon using attack boost 3 or with an exploit Wild Strux, so didn't really make sense. Really cool ramp up skills, but yes. Yes, I personally recommend attack boost 3, but you can also use with an exploit. Okay, that was it with the video. I didn't want to talk about the switch skills. I think I'm gonna talk about that in a separate video. Just didn't want to make my videos too long. I also gonna make a separate video about the switch skills, how to unlock them, which are the most powerful ones, common used, but I already talked about in the 2022 Switch X guide. So I'm not really sure whether I should make a separate video, but I make a separate video about armor skills. Armors you can craft, special skills you should aim for, and I also drop a link in the video down below, so you can get a list here how to specifically get those access to the switch axis, and so you didn't have to every time watch my video. You can also read here the wrap up skill, and I'm gonna also time by time add more stuff to this progression guide, so you can, I drop bottom, at a link at the bottom, whatever, or maybe I also take it advantage to the Switch X damage calculator. I think that's more recommended. So see you next time, have fun with that.